PokerStatic.com. We bring you the interviews you want to hear. Now with your hosts, Bret Oliverio and Eric Bickel, the Poker Static Hot Seat.
What's up? You're checking out the Poker Hot Seat. I'm Bret Oliverio with Eric Bickel. Joining us now is Tony Dunst. You may know him as Bond18. What's up, Tony?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on today.
No problem. What are you up to today? You're playing a little bit, right?
I am, yes, I am on the SQ grind. I've been putting in pretty large and long sessions every day, and we're doing it again today for the remainder of the afternoon.
Very nice. Now, we were trying to get him on Skype, and he was out at the store, and he forgot to get his webcam, so we've got like a pasted picture up there. I apologize. You're liable to get goofed on. I see Photoshop potential here. I have to warn you.
No, I apologize, but at least it'll look like I have like a really stern poker face going throughout the interview.
Now,
Right.
You're not playing sitting at your computer in a suit. You're not doing that whole thing, right?
What's that?
You're not sitting at your computer in a suit.
Sorry, it's a little soft. Sitting at my computer with what?
He said you're not sitting at your computer with a suit on, are you?
No, not today. No, I'll have a suit on later.
That's your thing, dude. You're peacocking. We had a guy, he wrote a book. What's the guy's name? Do you remember?
Damn it, I can't remember.
He writes for Rolling Stone, and he talks about, picking up girls and everything. And for people that don't know Tony, that's kind of Tony's deal. Tony's like a poker coach. He's a life coach. He's very confident and comfortable with women. He says he'll tell you how to pick up chicks. And this guy, I can't remember. Did he write the soundtrack, the screenplay for a movie? Where it was all about picking up chicks?
His whole life was based on The Pickup Artist, which of course aired on VH1, I believe.
Right. And he says it's all about peacocking and being different from everybody else. And in the poker room, everybody's wearing jeans and a T-shirt and hoodies.
Sweatpants.
And they look terrible. And Tony's dressed up. He looks like he's ready to go out to a club, right? It works for you.
It does. I mean, I'm not actually a very firm believer in peacocking in its traditional form, which is kind of just like wearing outrageous shit for the sake of wearing outrageous shit and hoping that, people take notice of you. But generally, I just believe that people should wear the clothes that they're comfortable in, and I've always felt really comfortable in suits, and that was something I kind of grew up really appreciating. So I just go with that. I mean, as far as the women thing goes, you're absolutely right. Women, as far as I can tell, appreciate a stylish man, and it kind of serves as a conversation piece. But like when you think of traditional pickup artists and they're like painting their fingernails and they're wearing makeup and they've got like top hats and goggles on, I'm like, man, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're completely giving up your dignity in order that maybe some women will come up and comment on what you're wearing.
Right. When did you realize, though, that you actually were like super comfortable with chicks? I mean, from what I understand, I did some research. I haven't read all the threads. I mean, this guy's like an epic poster on 2+2, the moderator, I believe. Yeah. I believe you've written how-to guides for people out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I was a guy growing up who was not good with women at all. I was pretty awkward around them. I had no idea, how to make a move on a girl, how to go. Like, I would never even consider going up and just talking to some girl I like and let on about that. But when I got out of my long-term relationship when I was 24, it occurred to me that I was, a 24-year-old guy who worked at home, who had a social circle who was made up of guys who were, the same thing, a bunch of dudes who worked at home who didn't really know women. And I was like, how do I date like this? And a friend of mine was involved in the pickup community, and he was like, you should check this out. I think you'd be really good at it. You're kind of a natural extrovert, and I know you like girls. And so I got pretty heavily into it, and I went from the stage where I was kind of learning about it to helping to teach it pretty quickly, which is not to say I don't have plenty to learn still. I mean, I'm learning all the time, both at pickup and poker and all kinds of different stuff. And I generally think that the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. But I like to think that I can help add some value to guys' lives by helping them in that area. And I think it's not uncommon for poker players to be pretty bad with women because many of us, the online generation, grow up depriving ourselves of social interaction by not attending college, by not having a really active social life outside of poker, which is 95 to 98% men. So it's pretty understandable that this would catch on within our industry.
So there's an entire community, like there's like a 2+2 message board of pickup dudes that know how to pick up chicks?
Yeah, totally. And they're generally kind of like sub-forums for each city. So there's, kind of a little community of guys that do it within that city. Like in Melbourne, I was friends with a ton of guys that were part of that community. And, some of my best friends in that area were into it. But, I know there's the sort of public perception of artists, which is what, like Mystery has put out there, which is kind of a bunch of weird dressing up guys that say a bunch of pretty odd stuff. The school of thought I belong to is more about, it's funny when people say, why would you ever do that? Why don't you just, be confident and be yourself? They're actually right. What they're saying is correct. It's just, it's not very easy to tell someone that and just kind of switch a flip in them like, hey man, I know you've been terrible with women your entire life, but if you just confident and be yourself, you'll be getting laid left and right. And he's like, oh, of course. I was trying to be someone else this entire time. This is all I have to do. Like, it does take a degree of practice and inner confidence to be really comfortable in your skin in an outward manner.
Right. Do you have I'm older now, and I've been around a little bit, so I have a little more confidence and I could see it. But when you're 21, 22, 23 years old, it does take some time. Do you have testimonials? Do you have guys that you've coached that actually have had success? I mean, forget about poker. Anybody can learn poker, but if you actually do you have success stories in the pickup world?
I am not a serious coach. I've never charged anyone for pickup coaching. It's more just like I meet guys and they feel like, I could teach them something, and I'm talking about it. Like, I wrote those articles mainly because I could understand where other guys are coming from in a similar place, and I thought, hopefully this will help them out. I could have really used this back when I was 18 or 19. I wish somebody had told me this kind of stuff so I wouldn't have been so awkward. I've helped a lot of my friends that are close to me. But there's no one that I have ever said, I want you to pay me money and I will coach you how to meet women.
Right. What are some of the first few tips that you tell somebody who is looking to get in the game?
I mean, generally I would recommend some reading material to them because it's often, if a guy has got an entire lifetime of built-up failure with women, it's not just like you can tell him 3 things and all of a sudden this is going to fix his problem. Generally I try and I'll normally spend, if I was going to sit down and try and teach someone, I'll spend about 90 minutes talking to them about kind of just going over a general comprehensive thought process on what I know and what I've learned and how they can apply it. And that's what I tried to do with my post, which was like 8,000 words long on the subject. And I like to think that it was a post that was both helpful to guys, but one that women could read and get behind. I've had some girls read that and message me and say, like, I really like what you had to say on dating, and I've heard about pickup and I thought it was weird, but the way you put it, it sounds pretty normal. It sounds like stuff guys should be learning. So hopefully, if people are reading that and checking it out, and they don't have the attitude. There are plenty of guys who are just like, why would I need that shit? I've always been good with women. What the fuck could you say that would help me? I mean, I'll put it to you guys this way. What I learned in poker was that just because I might be better at poker than someone doesn't necessarily mean they can't teach me something. It was David Skolansky who originally articulated this concept, which was, say, hypothetically, there are like 1,000 individual concepts in poker. You might know 900, but a guy who knows 500 might know some different concepts from you.
Right.
And there's a failure to overlap, so he can teach you plenty of things. So I like to kind of carry forward that mentality in both pickup and a number of other aspects in life, poker as well. I'm happy to talk poker with all kinds of guys at various skill levels. I don't think just because I've been doing this for a long time or that I've had some success means that I'm above talking strategy with certain people or that their viewpoints aren't valid. I mean, they might be incorrect, and I might try to express to them that I believe they're incorrect. But one of the problems I have with the poker community is there's an underlying arrogance to a lot of guys in the way they talk about the game, and I know I for sure used to have that arrogance, and when I go back and I read my post now on the subject, I'm like, man, I really thought I was hot shit back then, and having spent some more time in it, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Thank God I have smart friends.
Right. Yeah, I have to say, specifically when you talk about the 2+2 community, it's intimidating. You know, everything's like a level. Everything is like sarcastic. And to be honest with you, I've never posted anything on a strategy forum there on 2+2 because you just know you're going to get flamed at this point.
Absolutely. I think 2+2 is a pretty intimidating place to start learning about poker. I mean, it's understood that it's kind of the leader in strategy advice online, but also it's a little bit cliquey, and everyone has their own vernacular, their own way of going about things. And if you come in and you're not going about things the same way, you're probably going to get shit on pretty hard for a few months. There's a poster in the MTT section right now, Todd Terry, who you guys might be familiar with. He's been really successful live.
Mm-hmm.
He first started posting with us about 3 years ago, and I think for like the first year he was posting just almost everything he put up there. Most of the replies he got were people just being addicted to him. But he put up with it, and he learned, and he got much better, and now he's one of our most valued posters and put some really good advice and strategy content up there. But not many guys are going to be willing to go through what he went through in order to sort of be accepted within that community and be getting, legitimate and valid advice. And I realized that as a mod, and I thought, all right, when I post on 2+2, I want to post in a way that hopefully nobody feels like just because I'm saying they're wrong, I'm not trying to put them down or make them feel like an idiot. I'm just saying, like, I think you misunderstand this concept. Here's how we can improve upon this.
How did you go from being one of those cocky, arrogant guys who thought you knew everything to somebody who is willing to accept change and learn new things?
I mean, I think I just grew up a little. I'm not sure there was any really moment in my mind where I was like, holy shit, I've been an ass this whole time. But, things happen slowly, and you kind of realize that I guess the more efficient and effective way to communicate with people, discussing ideas and having civil discourse, is to be polite and respectful about it. And just because someone has a differing viewpoint from you doesn't necessarily mean there's an absolute wrong right. It could be simply something based on preference. So there's just no need to get worked up about it or be a dick about it. And generally I find, and this is something that's really evident to me in pickup, when you add value to people's lives, they will return that by adding value to yours. It's it's just kind of a what goes around comes around thing.
Let's talk about how you got started and how you got from there to where from where you are now. How you got there from the beginning. You grew up in Milwaukee, correct?
I grew up in Madison.
Madison, I'm sorry. You grew up in Madison, and you traveled around the world. You had a girlfriend in Australia. In fact, you tried to live there at some point. You were in Malaysia. Tell everybody sort of your odyssey and how you got from to where you are right now.
Sure. When I was 20, I won an Aussie Millions package on Party Poker. I went down there and really fell in love with Melbourne and the Australian way of life, and I decided to come back that summer in July to do study abroad there. Around August, I met Selena, who became my girlfriend for 3.5 years. But unfortunately, I accidentally overstayed my visa. I had forgotten to apply for an extension while I was in school there, so they banned me for 3 years, and I went and lived in China for 6 months of what turned out to be a 9-month ban, as we got it revoked after we applied for permanent residency. So then I was in China. I went to Malaysia immediately afterward for a couple of weeks. I had some friends there, and then I went over to the World Series, and then I moved back to Australia and lived with my girlfriend for quite some time. And even after we broke up, I continued trying to live there until I realized that there was just no legal and legitimate way for me to immigrate anymore, which is why I ended up leaving. So, overall, I really miss Australia, and it's a great country, and I hope to return to it one day, be as a resident or a tourist. But for the time being, I'm located in Vegas. During the duration of my stay in Australia, I was fortunate enough to be able to travel both for the tournament circuit, and twice I decided, I'm just going to buy an around-the-world plane fare, which people don't realize. Like, you can see a lot of places surprisingly cheap if you just get an around-the-world fare and, agree to constantly move in the same direction. And as far as all the travel goes, I mean, the way I articulate it to people is that generally every time I go to a new place, I get the opportunity to learn about a new way to go about things. I guess you have a moment when you go to this place or wherever it is, and you say, oh, I never thought you could go about that that way. Like it sort of opens up your mind on a new level of thinking.
I got to ask you about the around the world plane fare. Like, how does that work? I didn't know such a thing exists. How much does it cost? How long does it last?
How do you get it?
Generally through any travel agent. I use bestflights.com.au. But the first year I did it, I had around a 3-month trip that included going to Australia, all over Europe, to the States, over to China, and then back down to Australia. I did that economy, and it was only like $2,800 for all those flights.
It's got to be
Next
kidding.
year, no, seriously, here's where it gets crazy. The next year I did one that was, the itinerary was, let's see, Australia to Hawaii, then Hawaii to Vegas, New York City, London, Nairobi. Then I had to find my own way to Dubai, then Dubai over to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong back down to Melbourne. All of those flights over a 4.5-month period, and they were all business or first class, and it only cost me $8K.
Wow.
That's it.
That's unbelievable. And you're doing this traveling by yourself, or do you have a group of guys, or what?
I do it by myself, but I normally have guys that I know along the tour, like, much of my Europe trip, Timex and Will Ma were along with me. When I'm in Vegas, I know a ton of people, and I often get a house with guys. But generally, I prefer to sort of overall travel alone. The first time I did an around-the-world trip, I brought my girlfriend with me. But it's fun to have a group of guys to travel around with. But I want my own space. I want my own hotel room or things like that. But the other thing is that because of my blog, when I go to random places, there's normally people who have like heard of me or have read my blog and say, hey, you'd be cool to show around and everything. So it's very rare these days that I go to a city and there's not somebody there who would offer to show me around and hang out and introduce me to people.
It's pretty sick.
What was Dubai like?
Well, Dubai is really interesting. That's a fascinating city. It reminds me of Las Vegas in the sense that it is very newly constructed and has that kind of fake sheen to it. Like it was thrown up so fast and it's so glamorous, but it's all kind of sort of pretend. But it's also, it's the Middle East, and it's got the Middle East culture and ways of going about things. So, for example, they're extremely touchy about public displays of affection. The guy who was showing me around there, who I won't name actually because he took me to poker games, which, I'm not supposed to say that he was taking me to poker games and things like that. They have what's known as the secret police, which are called the CID, and these are guys that go around in plain clothes, and they'll work at like gas stations or restaurants and things like that, and they'll listen in on your conversations or look for people who are acting suspiciously and arrest you if need be. It's pretty strict there, but as a tourist, you're not going to really run into it unless you go looking for trouble. But I remember that the guy who I was visiting there, who I'll call you, he was saying how he'd been out with his girlfriend, and they were kind of like holding hands, and they kissed a little, and someone came over and said, I need you to stop this, you're offending my family. And there's just so many little interesting cultural facets about the way they socialize there. For example, the way that many locals meet is they go to the mall. And malls are just huge there. It's like the hangout place. And if a girl sees a guy she really likes in Dubai and they're both locals, they can't like go up and talk to each other. So they'll just kind of make this little eye contact at each other, and then the girl might, or the guy might, like write his number on a piece of paper and sort of make eyes at the other person and then drop it and hope that they come and pick it up.
It's like an animal or something. It's like what animals do.
I remember I went out to dinner with a young couple, and at the end of it, the girl was like, okay, I'm going to go now, and she just stands up and walks off and doesn't say anything or really touch her boyfriend at all. And if you were looking at that from a Western perspective, you'd be like, oh, man, are you and your girlfriend okay? She seemed really cold there. But there, that's normal. They can't do like a goodbye hug or a goodbye kiss or anything like that. It's much more reserved and contained.
Wow.
I tell you, through all of this, what blows me away is your youth. You're, what, 25 right now, Tony?
Yes, I'm 25.
25. You travel the world by yourself. How did you get? Obviously, you're a bright kid. I don't know. Did you ever take the SATs? I'm guessing you got something close to a perfect score. Yeah.
I took the ACT, and I was never particularly good at math and sciences, so I was like average there. But in the English and reading comprehension sections, I was near perfect. But I also slept through part of it.
That's unbelievable. So obviously you have all this. Where did this confidence come from? Tell me about your family background, because it's very rare. I mean, of all my boys, I just can't see any of them having the confidence to just pick up and travel the world by themselves and do the things that you've done already at such a young age. It's pretty incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. My family was really normal and pleasant. Like, my dad was a lawyer for the state elections board, and he was kind of the guy, I think, who really cemented the idea of and planted the seed of being fashionable in my mind. He was a really stylish guy. He left GQ and Esquire magazines all around the house, and he would give me cool articles of clothing, and he had an entire just basement filled with clothes, and I knew, I was like, I'm the 25-year-old version of my dad. I have just way too many clothes. And my mom was a nurse and eventually taught nursing, and a little more on the conservative side when I first got into poker, and she found out I was playing online. She kind of freaked out and thought I had developed a gambling problem. But these days, they've both more or less come around to it. I had a younger brother who's a pretty cool kid and a little more reserved than I am, but a really nice guy, and he's really kind of coming into his own now at the age of 20, and I'm going to have him out to Vegas when he turns 21. And I kind of grew up in Wisconsin, which is a lovely place to have a childhood in the sense that it's very normal and ordinary, but I was always kind of wondering about what else was out there. And I think especially I didn't really leave the country outside of a brief trip to a resort to Dominican Republic. And, when you're sitting on the resort, that's not exactly experiencing another country. Australia was the first one I went to, and I was just like, man, if this is this way, I kind of got to know what it's like in all the other places. I got to know how they go about things and how it's different there. And I felt that, I ended up dropping out of college to play poker and to travel. And personally, I feel I've learned much more traveling, interacting with people, learning about their culture, and just having an open mind than I could have in a classroom atmosphere. I mean, naturally, I don't have any legitimate credentials at this stage, and if ever I have to get a job, I may or may not be totally fucked. But I wouldn't trade the experiences I've had for anything, even if it would make me more employable or financially secure in the future.
Did you find yourself in any sticky situations, anything dicey in any of these foreign countries when you were by yourself?
Staying out in Nairobi until 6 a.m. was probably not a great idea. I've never gotten, I'm a pretty sensible guy, so in all the places I've gone, I've never gotten into any serious trouble. I've never gotten into a fight or argument with any locals. I've never gotten mugged or jumped. I generally find that I'm pretty good at talking my way out of bad situations and talking my way into good ones, and so most of my experience has been overwhelmingly positive.
Now, you wrote a blog on PokerSavvy.com. That's where you can read Tony's blog. Of course, he plays under Bond18, and it was called Success and Failure, and it was really interesting. And you wrote down like 5 or 6 different traits that separate the people who succeed in poker and the people that fail. And I want you to talk a little bit about the number 3, which was emotional control, because you go on to talk about, and you may know this better just from traveling so much, people from different cultures handle emotional situations better. In fact, you go on to say that Scandinavian poker players, they have like a cold way about them, and they're able to handle their emotions and become better poker players because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that emotional control is a major factor in success in poker. I mean, there are some really, really high-level guys who are prone to tilting, but overall, if you look at the best players in the world, they're almost all just ice in their veins, don't give a fuck type of dudes. I mean, Antonius, Ivy, hey, I'll throw his name out there, Lucky Chewy, Durr, all these guys really seem to just give off this vibe that it's all cool. They're really good at evaluating what's going right, what's going wrong, and not losing themselves in the game. And if you look at the Scandinavians, why they're generally, as a culture and per capita, they seem to generate such a high quantity of excellent poker players. I have no proof to this, but in my personal opinion, it seems to me because they are such a cold, kind of logical, calm and collected type people, that they have a natural advantage in a game which tends to build up a lot of frustration, and if you lose your head in this game, you're probably going to end up losing your money with it. Whereas some other cultures, people are more emotional, they wear their heart on their sleeve, and I feel like that's a pretty major disadvantage. And one thing that I've worked towards in the course of my career is letting the emotional impact of poker go, because at the end of the day, all you can really do is try and make optimal decision after optimal decision, and you don't have any control of the results. Like, you have no say over what cards come out at what time, so I'm not sure why you would let yourself get really stressed out about them. And I'm not saying that I don't feel annoyance or frustration over the course of my session. And, certainly when I'm playing online, I'm like, will you look what this motherfucker is doing right now, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not, like, generally angry. I don't get up from a session of online poker and let it ruin my day. I remember what really sunk this into my mind is I was talking to a couple of my friends last World Series, and they were like, how are you such a good attitude about busting all these tournaments? I'm like, good attitude, man. I'm done with work for the day. I get to go out and do whatever the fuck I want after I bust a tournament. Like, let's go have a ball, let's go out. We could go get some food. We could go shopping. We could go chat up some girls. We could go out to a club. We could do anything we want. I mean, the world is our oyster. And then you're going to mope around because you busted a donkiment? How many donkinents have you busted in your lifetime? How do you still care? I mean, just get over it.
In fact, Tony, didn't you take a one-outer in the 09 main event?
Yes, I did.
What
was
the
my ass off through the duration of it.
What was the hand? Do you remember?
It went, let's see, the guy on my right opened to 300. Somebody called in between us. I made it 1,300. Small blind, I was on the button with ace. The small blind folded. The big blind calls the 1,300. The guy who opened now makes it 6,300, and we're like 30K effective to start the hand. The guy in between us folds. I call, and the big blind folds. The flop is like 8-4 deuce, something just completely rainbow random dud cards. He leads 5K. I make it 13,000. He shoves. I snap. He has kings, and the guy in between us goes, hey, I folded ace king. Whack, king on the turn. And river bricks, and it leaves me with 300, and they had the camera on me, and I was just like, oh, man, that kind of sucks. I should go home and get high, I was just kind of laughing through it. I was like, how do these things happen? I think it's also easy for me to say because I'm backed for live poker, so it's slightly less frustrating from a financial aspect. But I personally believe in not playing any tournaments that would affect you heavily emotionally because of the bankroll issue. So, let's say I no longer have a backer. If I feel that the World Series of Poker is really going to fuck my head up emotionally because it's just too much money for me, I'll probably sit it out. I mean, generally I would think that I could probably find guys to buy pieces because it's the World Series main event. But, that's probably not a great example. But if we're talking about any other random 10K on the planet, I'm happy to sit it out if I think that it's going to cause some kind of emotional discomfort within me because I don't want that hanging over me while I'm trying to play.
Are you then, so you're backed for all of your live play or just at the World Series?
I am back for all of my live play and 1K plus tournaments online.
And why do you choose to go there? I mean, obviously you want to,
reduce your variance.
Reduce your variance and just the stress level on some level. But, I mean, if you're confident that you're a winning player and that's been proven, why not just take 100% of yourself?
Because I think in order to play the live circuit and not care about the variance, you need like a 7-figure bankroll, which I definitely do not have.
Right.
So I'm happy to stay back, very well into the future unless I win something enormous. I've got a very good relationship with my backers who are Mike Timex McDonald and Mike Sir Watson. Yeah, Danny, I'll tell him that dog is his nickname. And honestly, I just find that because there are other people whose money I'm responsible for, it also helps me play my best because I hate the idea of having to come up to one of them and they're like, what happened? And I'm like, I spazzed it off. I played like a donk and I did something stupid. So, when I'm responsible for other people's money, that really keeps me in a pretty good mental headspace while I'm trying to play.
And you have like makeup and make good and all that, right? So if you go, let's say you go 10 tournaments without cashing, you still have to make up even what little you may make in that 11th tournament, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, what's your mindset when you're going? Say you're playing a 5K buy-in event and you owe $75,000. Like, oh my God, I got to finish, top 4 to even make a dime here. Isn't that tough mentally?
Absolutely not. I never think like that because I have my own online action outside of the highest buy-ins. I always have an income if I decide to put in the volume and play well. So I'm not at a need for money at any stage, and I feel it's my responsibility to my backers to play in their best interest and not in my best interest. So I try and maintain the standard that I'm just going to play as if I were playing for myself and in zero makeup, and I'm just going to play my best game. And because I think my backers are taking a gamble on me, I'm not an amazing player or anything like that. I think one of the reasons that they continue to back me and feel good about the spot they're in is that they know that I'm going to play as responsibly as possible on their behalf.
Right. How did you get to this point as a player? I know that you started out with friends playing. You started, I assume, playing online shortly after the Moneymaker thing or right before that. How did you get good? Did you join a training site? Did you read up all the books? Did you have a coach?
All of them. I read a crap load of books. I really enjoy reading. Back in the day, I joined Poker X Factor when that was the only tournament site going. Watched a number of their videos. I started posting a ton on 2+2, and the first formal coach I ever had was Adam Junglin, who's an excellent online and live player himself. And I'd also hired numerous guys to review my hand histories and kind of give me sort of a brief coaching session. I'd hired Mike Watson. I'd hired Jay Kincaid, who's Sea Beast in line. I'd hired Noah SD on 2+2 to help me with my post-flop game. I'm really open-minded about getting other people's input on my game. And right now I feel like because I spent 2009 mostly off and concentrating on traveling around the world, getting drunk and chasing tail, that I think there was a dip in my game, and that, generally the online game evolves so quickly that if you're not working at it consistently, you're going to fall behind. And I feel that I did. So one reason I'm really ecstatic that I moved in with King Dan and Lucky Chewy is that I feel they're better than me. I feel they're able to articulate their thoughts on poker thought process very well, and I'm really eager to get some coaching off them and work on my game leading up to the World Series.
Now, have you always focused on tournaments? Did you ever just play sit and goes? Were you ever a cash game kind of guy? How did that come about?
I started with sit and goes, and then I went through a period in like 2004, 2005 where I played a lot of limit cash games. These days, you'd have to hold a gun to my head to make me play limit poker. Around 2006, I made the transfer over to tournaments, and I found I really just enjoyed them. I think that if you work very, very hard, you can make more money at cash, and you can be a better poker player if you learn cash. But that just felt too much like a grind and a job to me, whereas tournaments had a bit of drama and a bit of spontaneity to them. So I've always enjoyed playing tournaments, and it just doesn't feel like work to me very much. So I'm pretty sure that although in the coming future I'm going to make an effort to work on my heads-up cash game, because I have such excellent coaching resources available to me right now, my emphasis will always be on tournaments.
We've become friendly with Nick Rainey. He's MI Turtle. I'm sure you know him. On
Massive volume player.
Yeah, the guy plays out of his mind. He's out of control. But we love him. He's a great guy, and he posted on one of his blogs recently that his results. I think he won the TLB that month on Poker Stars, and I was shocked by it. And this guy is a proven winner here over the last 18 months or so. And even being as great as he is, as far as putting in the volume and being able to reduce the variance and everything, I think in 1 month, and he won the TLB, I think he had 23 winning days and 17 losing days, which that just blew my mind.
That doesn't
doesn't even add up, right? No, maybe it was 17 and 13. It was something like that.
Exactly. 17
and 13, but it wasn't that much over 50%. In other words,
but his winning days were much bigger than his losing days.
Right. Do you have? Is that a similar sort of ratio to you?
I don't look at my days per se, but I would guess that I'm about 50% winning because I'm very high volume. I think there are lots of tournament guys who are way lower than that because they're playing 6 tables at a time and they're only playing the toughest tournaments. But right now I'm chatting to you guys and I've got 13 tables up. I've got more coming. I'll play everything down to like a $24 freeze out or an 11 rebuy add-on if I've got room for it that day. I'll play everything I can get my hands on, and that cuts down my variance. So I would guess I'm in the 50-50 region as far as win-lose split. I can't say for sure, but generally tournaments can be a real mindfuck variance-wise in the sense that many, many days are going to be losing days, and especially live poker. When I first started playing live poker, I went on a $140,000 downswing just playing a crap load of live tournaments before I ever got it back. And if you're not careful, that can fuck your head up real hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How do you stay focused when you're playing so many tables and for such a long period of time?
I try and stay very fit. I like a bit of coffee in the morning. If possible, I like to get some exercise before I start my session, as that really wakes me up nicely. I like to take, a break. When we have our 5-minute breaks, I like to walk around and keep my blood flowing, talk to my roommates. I will say that I have times where I'm not 100% focused on my games. If I've got like 8 tables up, I might be dicking around on Facebook or reading various websites or posting hands on 2+2 or watching porn or who knows what. But generally, I try and stay pretty into it with my games, especially when I'm playing a very large amount of tables. And I think, it's just a lot of practice being built up over the years. A lot of guys really don't enjoy 16 tabling all day, and I can understand why, because it gets pretty hectic, but it just doesn't really bother me very much.
How do you get better as a player when you're playing so many tables? I've tried to mass multi-table, and I just get worse. Not even better. It's not even close.
Well, I do try and maintain a pretty intense focus on what I'm doing. I will say that I very rarely have really specific developed reads on players because there's just so much going on. But what I'll do is every time I encounter a hand where, I'm sort of half on autopilot, half thinking, and I'm like, I don't know what to do here, I'll copy-paste it into just a notepad file, and then I'll put it on 2+2 later that night, or I'll ask my friends for their opinion on the hand, and then I'll also take time off away from playing poker to work on my game. I'll review my own hand histories, I'll review other people's hand histories and send them, my notes and thoughts on what they've got there. I'll read hands on 2+2. I mean, I like to think that when I'm really at my best, I'll be doing an hour of study 5 nights a week or something like that.
Wow. When was the last time you had a losing month?
I don't know. I would imagine in the rather recent history, because there was certainly some months where I wasn't playing my best and I wasn't putting in a ton of volume just because I had other stuff going on. So, who knows? We could look at, what is it, May right now? It's May.
Yeah.
We could look at April, and I might be a losing player in April. I'm not sure. Could be.
So
I never really keep...
But it doesn't make you tilt. Like, I know I'd have a couple losing months, after maybe winning, like for, a year straight, and all of a sudden I've lost all confidence. I think I'm the worst player ever in the history of the country, and the whole world's gotten better, and I've gotten worse. How do you just know that that's not the case?
Because I think about poker in a very long-term mindset. I'm just like, you know what? Just concentrate on making optimal decisions after optimal decisions, and hopefully it'll work itself out. And if it doesn't, pray to God somebody hires you.
How do you handle cashing out? Is it something where I need to pay my rent, I'll cash out $1,000 or whatever it is, or what's your money management?
I acquire all my money by somehow getting a random percentage of one of my friends in a tournament, and then they just win because I run like God at that, and then I have a bunch of money. So I never cash out, or occasionally I'll just need money and I'll be like, oh, I'm at some random place and I need to buy into this tournament. Can I have cash from so-and-so random online tournament player? And they're like, yeah, sure. I have to say that I actually haven't cashed out since I think I broke up with my girlfriend, because she used to do all the normal people stuff for me, because I'm one of those guys who spent so much time in poker he's incapable of doing the little everyday stuff. I forgot to check my mail in Australia for 8 months.
Wow.
Oh my God.
The internet and power both had various periods where they went out because I hadn't paid the bills, and I was like, I should go through my mail and see why this is happening. I was like, oh, I didn't pay that bill. Better sort that out. So I just forget to cash out for long periods of time and just let it build up, and then there'll be random times when somebody will be heavy on live money, and they'll be like, I'm traveling to this random place. I need to get rid of the cash. And I'll be like, I'll give you online money and take that cash, and there we go.
Okay, I see. It's just the whole the poker community is just so insane with money, and everyone's sort of so casual with it that everyday guys, we live out here in D.C. and we're not in that community. It's very difficult to relate to it, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. We're a weird fucking bunch. I call non-poker people normal people because we are not normal at all.
Right.
And the world we live in is not normal. And as far as discussing money goes, I've realized that when I hang out with non-poker people, I've got to be careful about the way I speak about money, because poker players speak about money like it's a tool, like it's just no big deal. We can all go online and figure out what the other guy makes if we want to, because we can use sites like poker table ratings or official poker rankings, and so whatever. Knowing what your friends are making is irrelevant. But normal people don't talk about money like that. And if you decide to not think about the way you're phrasing things and the way you're presenting yourself when discussing that topic, you can come off really rude or arrogant if you're not careful.
Right. What about when you're out with your boys? Do you pick up the tab, and do you have a credit card? Because we become close with the Dang brothers, and Hack and Z Dang, they play the Rail Heaven and Nosebleed games, and they'll have a couple $1 million in their checking account, but they can't get a $1,000 credit limit on their credit card.
I don't know. I just use a debit card. Or cash. Or I say to my friends, I have no money on me right now because I'm a broke ass. Can I send somebody online? And they're like, yeah, Tony, yes, yet again. So I'm really not a responsible adult with money. I'm not too spewy with the money I earn outside of travel and nice restaurants. I don't just randomly buy really excessive stuff, but I'm also not that careful with it. I'm just like, yeah, we can go out to eat every night of the week, and yeah, all right, we'll just get another suit, even though it's, I don't even have a job. But overall, like, I try and just carry enough cash on me that I can pay for things, unless I lose credit card roulette or I just throw it on the debit card. But I don't bother with credit cards. That seems like something that I would forget to pay off.
For sure. Yeah, you better not. Stick with the debit cards. Seems to work for you. All right. Well, listen. What's the future hold for you? Sounds like you're rededicating yourself to the online game. Maybe a little less travel right now. Is that the immediate future?
Absolutely. Like, I think I'll take some very small trips over the course of my time in the States. However, I was just talking to Chewy last night, and we decided that later this year we're going to do 5 weeks in Asia. And then I think next year we're going to do a Europe trip for the EPT, San Remo and Monte Carlo. And then I've got some friends up in Stockholm, and then I want to go to Amsterdam and try their take on weed cafes and everything like that and experience it. And, occasionally doing trips, but you're right. Right now my focus is on rededicating myself to the game and making sure that I'm not washed up at the age of 25 and that I don't completely fall behind the times. So over the next several months, I hope that I take my game to the next level and think something live. That would be awesome.
What about the World Series?
I'm going to be playing a very large schedule at the World Series. I would guess between the World Series and the Bellagio Cup and the random other things that run there, I'll be in 20 to 30 tournaments over a 6-week period.
Wow. And you'll be wearing a suit every time?
Every fucking day.
Good for you, pal. Good for you.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. Your story's pretty cool, and
pretty impressive.
You seem like just a different kind of dude, but in a good way. So,
where can people check you out? I mean, obviously a Poker Savvy. You write your blog. Where can they find stuff about you?
I have my main little website at spewingwithbond18.com. Poker Savvy Plus is where we do the coaching videos, and my sort of everyday poker blog is carried over at Card Player.
Gotcha.
Cool, man. Well, good luck at the World Series, and good luck online today.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Really had fun.
Yeah, thanks,
right,
Tony.
man.
Appreciate it. Be good, buddy. All right,
so
that's
that was
Tony Dunst, everybody. You know him as Bond18.
Bond18. Hardcore grinder, traveler.
I got to tell you, man.
Hollerer.
I must have a severe inferiority complex. 'Cause I talk to these guys, and they just blow me away. And I almost get paralyzed in fear because they're so effing smart.
Oh, yeah. It's tough to hold a conversation
They're
with
so
that guy.
young. This guy's traveled the world. I've lived in the D.C. area virtually my whole life.
Right, you sit in your basement.
I'm in my basement all day.
Watch Tiger Woods.
I might go out and play catch with my kid in the front yard.
Right.
My big highlight of the day today is going to go take him and his buddy to soccer practice. And this guy's going to Malaysia, to Australia, to Amsterdam, to, all over the world. Nairobi.
Just to experience the culture.
And
why not?
And to have that confidence to start doing that at 20 or 20. Can you imagine you had a girlfriend or you win a trip, all of a sudden you start dating a girl in a foreign country and you just donk off your family and your friends. And you say, you know what, I'm just going to apply for permanent residency here.
Totally changed my life.
In this new country. And it's just not a big deal. It's pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah.
I find it intimidating, to be honest with you. And he's obviously a genius.
Right. And everything's worked out for him. And
Yep.
he's back in the United States. He's grinding the tournament. I mean, just from reading his blog, the guy's playing sometimes like 14 hours a day.
Right. No, it's sick. And
he knows how to talk to chicks.
Yeah.
I give him props for that because
that's the thing. I
most
wanted
online dudes.
I wanted to ask him more about that, but we only had a limited amount of time.
All right, so that was Tony Dunst, Bond18. He was just on the Poker Hot Seat. Of course, our email, if you want to get in touch with us, hotseat@pokerstatic.com. Thanks for checking out the show, and we will see you guys next week. Peace.